If you're thinking of ideas on how to distribute and market your application, then look no further than this video, because I'll be outlining the tactics I'm planning to use to market my application. In the current landscape, TikTok and Instagram Reels have become one of the most powerful tools that indie hackers can use to market their applications, while also being completely free. But here's the thing. You cannot just post about your app's features and expect to go viral overnight. A lot of this content utilizes hooks, fast cuts to actually grab the watcher's attention. And that's exactly why I'm building out my application called Blitzcut that allows you to add subtitles and cut out the empty space in the videos. Link is in the description. But anyways, if you create great content, you should be expecting comments like this. That proves that you're onto something good. The goal is to post consistently, ideally daily, and pay attention to what works and what doesn't. One viral video can bring thousands of users. And unlike paid ads, this traffic is pre-qualified because they have already engaged with your content. Besides that, you can actually repurpose that viral video for paid ads as well, which is another vehicle for driving traffic to your application. And that's the beautiful part about starting with organic marketing. Once you find what works, you can then repurpose it for paid ads and get even more traffic that way. Most indie developers start with paid ads day one, and I think that's actually a mistake. What ends up happening is that you create these sterile, corporate looking advertisements that don't really bring any attention to your application whatsoever. Personally, I'm not going to be running ads until I find a winning organic content formula. But for now, I'm thinking that Meta ads are one of the better ad platforms that you can basically get. It's basically Facebook and Instagram combined. But here's what people don't really tell you, is that you actually have to put in a certain amount of money for the Meta's algorithm to actually properly understand what your audience is and who to advertise. We are talking about somewhere in between 50 conversions within a 7-day period before it exits the learning phase and actually knows who to target. That usually means that you have to dedicate somewhere in between $200 to $500 initially just for the algorithm to understand what you're advertising. So this isn't a test with like $10. You actually have to have a proper strategy for advertisement, and that also means real budget. But that's exactly where organic content comes in, right? So I'm not spending $500 initially just to see if my ad fails or not. I have to first validate my messaging through organic posts, and then once I know what hooks work, what content actually works, then I'm ready to let Meta amplify it to the right audience. I'll be watching the cost per install very closely once I actually start doing ads, but more importantly, cost per activated user, because downloads don't really mean anything if the people aren't even using the app or not even purchasing the subscription. Though it could be a case of maybe the user seeing the advertisement and then remembering the app in back of his mind, or maybe that like writing down the notes somewhere about the application and then searching the application on the App Store later on. But for that to actually happen, you actually have to set up your App Store search optimization properly. ASO, or App Store Search Optimization, solves the question whether the user will find your competitors first or your app first. In order to properly start setting up App Store Search Optimization, you need to look at your app's keywords. Personally, I'm doing keyword research with tools such as Sensor Tower or TryAstro to find what people are searching for when they are searching for my application. I'm basically doing a data search-centric approach to what people are searching for. What I'm basically looking for is keywords that have decent search volume but lower competition. Going after a keyword called video editor is basically pointless when there are many video editors out there, because you're basically competing with CapCut, InShot, and every other app. But subtitle generator or AutoCut application might actually get you more downloads then. Personally, I'm placing these keywords strategically at the start of the application in my app title, subtitle, and even the description. App title is the most important. It carries the most amount of weight in the algorithm for the search. Personally, for my application, I wrote down AI silence remover Blitzcut so that the keyword is actually the first thing that a person might look for. And I have noticed that after putting the keyword first for my application, I got more downloads that way. But here's a growth hack that most indie developers miss, and that is localization. And I'm not talking about just translating your application to Spanish or English. There are certain growth hacks that you can actually implement to get more downloads with localization. For example, have you ever heard of 10 localization hack? Here's exactly what that is. Apple allows you to target keywords in up to 10 different localizations, specifically for the United States App Store. That means if you optimize your app's keywords for English of United States, English of United Kingdom, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, Arabic, French, Chinese, traditional, Vietnamese, and Korean, you can get 10x the keywords when you're targeting the United States App Store. If your app isn't fully translated, just having localized store listings will automatically improve your app's reach. For example, if someone in Brazil is looking for editor de video, he can find your app much more easily. Someone in Germany, for example, if he's looking for Untertitel app, I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, a German guy would probably see your app first if he's looking for that type of search, and your app has that keyword in the metadata. You're essentially multiplying your App Store search optimization real estate. And remember, App Store can allow you to have 40 different localizations for your application. And here's what most people actually miss. ASO isn't just about keywords. Your conversion rate also matters. If 100 people land on your app page, but only like 2 people download it, the algorithm interprets that as this app isn't what people really want. So your screenshots, your preview video, and description have to be absolutely dialed in. The beautiful thing about ASO is that it's compounding. Every download increases your ranking, gets you more organic visibility, which gets you more downloads. It's like a flywheel. And unlike ads, where you stop paying and the traffic stops, ASO keeps working 24/7. But you know what also ranks 24/7? SEO. Here's something that most app developers actually overlook. People don't just search for apps in app stores anymore. They search on Google. For example, best app for deleting silences off of your videos, best app for subtitles, stuff like that. These searches happen millions of times during the day on most popular search engines such as Google. And if you're not showing up, you're leaving users on the table. The crazy part is that SEO traffic is even more valuable than App Store traffic if you really think about it, because these people are actively researching for solutions to their problems. They're not just browsing, they're problem aware and they're looking for solutions. If you manage to capture them at that stage, you're pretty much set. So here's my SEO strategy that I'm gonna be trying to implement personally. I have built out a simple landing page for my application already, and I optimized my site to have key search terms that people would look for. What I'm also gonna be doing is adding blog articles to my site, and I'm gonna be actually creating some helpful content there. It isn't gonna be just download my app type articles, you know? Each piece of content should subtly position my app as one of the solutions to their possible problems. And of course, I have to make sure that the landing site is quick, it's mobile optimized, and it has all of the metrics set correctly. For that, I'm also looking at Google Search Console to find out how many people see my website, how many people are searching for my website, and other things like that. There's a really good underrated tactic that I've seen for SEO optimized sites, and that is creating comparison pages. For example, I could create like a comparison page between CapCut and DaVinci Resolve, Blitzcut versus CapCut, InShot versus CapCut, stuff like that, right? Because a lot of people actually are evaluating options, and when they are evaluating options, it's good that they see your article first, so that you can actually steal those users pretty fast. Of course, you can also answer questions on Quora, position your app as a solution to their problems and questions, and get backlinks. I know a lot of people say that backlinks are dead, they don't work, but research says otherwise. So if you launch your website on Product Hunt, Tiny Launch, or any other site, it's gonna increase your site's ranking, and I think it's definitely worth it. The best part about SEO is that it's a long-term game. But once you rank, the traffic is basically permanent. You will always get people going to your site, and it doesn't require any ad spend. Now, while SEO and backlinks are good for long-term traffic to your app or your website, they take time, sometimes months, to actually start seeing good traffic to your website or app. What if, for example, you want to get your app in front of the users really fast? That's where Reddit comes in. Reddit is essentially a collection of thousands of hyper-focused communities for any niche possible, basically. And we're talking about thousands of subreddits that would possibly fit your ideal client profile perfectly. But here's the thing, Reddit is notoriously hostile to marketers. Get it wrong and you'll be downvoted, you'll lose karma, you'll get banned by moderators of different subreddits, and will damage your brand reputation. But if you do it right, it can drive hundreds, if not thousands of users towards your application if you craft a well-placed comment or a post. My advice, don't try to be too salesy with your posts on Reddit. I think that if you mention your app a little bit more subtly, I think that can go a long way in building your brand image, your app, and your user base. Besides that, I think it's worth it to mention your application in the subreddits where it actually makes sense. Because if you mention it somewhere where it doesn't really make sense, I mean, you're probably just gonna get downvoted, right? So another goldmine that I've seen is actually LinkedIn. So you can see in this post right here, this guy generates 70% of his leads on LinkedIn compared to other platforms that he has. Now, there are countless of examples of LinkedIn being a strong vehicle to drive more leads to your application. But my problem with this is that usually your application has to have some sort of a B2B spin on it to be valuable for LinkedIn. And sadly, my application doesn't really have a lot of B2B stuff on it right now, but I do plan on testing it out and testing if businesses want certain features on my application or a certain marketing spin could maybe get me some B2B clients. So I think I'll try to approach my marketing in a way where B2B might find some value in my application. Speaking of B2B, a lot of people still use email marketing. And you know why they still use it? Because it works. I would suggest that you don't sleep on it. I personally started collecting emails pretty early on in my app's lifecycle. Now, I don't have that many emails right now. I am planning to send out emails to all of the subscribers once I launch my macOS application. Besides email automation, I think that you can also send out DMs to people that could fit your client profile, especially if your message is well personalized to the person that you're messaging. I think that it can get a lot of clients that way, though it isn't that scalable. And finally, one of the tactics that I'm also utilizing is building in public. I often post on X showcasing my process in building my application and sharing my thoughts with fellow community builders and marketers, learning about what works in the industry and what doesn't. Which, by the way, you should follow me on X at honestcodelol. Thank you. Well, I've been growing my X account in build on public circles. I'd say that if your application can align with the builders, you can strike gold basically. So for example, if you sell starter kits like Marklu or analytics tools for builders to get more insights into their customers, I think that can work really well in building public circles. What I'll personally try to do is showcase how exactly using video can help you out when you're doing content for building in public. Maybe I'll get users that way on my application, we'll see. And of course, I think like getting users on YouTube as well is definitely viable. You can create tutorials for your application. You can maybe create greenfield content that basically helps people find solutions to their problems. And I think that it can really shine in YouTube, mainly because I use Blitzcut myself for editing my own videos on YouTube. And I kind of started talking about my application pretty recently as well. And I think you can see other videos that I have uploaded where I talk exactly about how I was building this application. It's over there in the corner. I'd like to see you there. See ya.